What's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Hey, y'all, welcome to Woosah Wednesday. You guys know what this is. This is Underground. We do this every Wednesday, and we absolutely love it. Okay, this is a great episode, a very powerful episode. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. But first, I want to thank everybody who has subscribed to my channel because of the Underground Review recap slash discussions. And I also want to thank everyone for the great commentary that they leave down below in the comment section. It is engaging, it is smart, it is funny, it is eye-opening, and I appreciate every single solitary comment, you guys. Okay, now before we get started, go ahead, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, and hit that subscribe button down below. Give me a thumbs up, and also, of course, comment. I love it. All right. In case I didn't mention that. All right. So let's get into this. This episode is called um, Nok Art, and this is episode 4 from season 2. The episode opens with Daniel, of course, and he is standing in front of the master's house. Up walks another slave, and he is carrying a note. And Daniel's like, no, 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 can't do that here, not in front of the master's house. He's going to come out at any moment. And he tells Daniel, this is very, very important. We have to read this. And so Daniel walks over with this other slave behind the tree. And I want to just make a note of Daniel's walk, okay? Daniel's walk has so much pride and so much strength in it. And I think that it is coming from his ability to now read. Like it has opened his eyes to a lot of different things. And I think he has come into the marvelous light of who he is and whose he is. Okay. All right. So reads this letter and reads this note and learns about Kansas is bleeding. It's all about John Brown, who is stealing slaves and taking them back up north. And this is from another master to Daniel's master, warning them, if they don't want to get their slaves sold to and lose the money, to go ahead and sell them all and send them away. And this is important because when the slaves are sold, they're split up. They may not get to stay together. They're treated like cattle. So it's important to know what's happening. So after he reads it, the other slave that's there with him says, I want you to teach me how to read. And Daniel says, you don't understand, and you don't want this. And so the slave says, I know about the risk and I don't care. He says, well, it's not about the risk. This is a curse. He says the words give voice to feelings that you never knew you even had, that never had voice before. He said it's crushing. The weight is crushing. He says it opens up a world that is so much bigger than the world you were in originally. And I think what he's talking about is this sense of accountability he feels now and responsibility that the knowledge brings. And it's a moment because we hadn't thought about that, had we? We had not thought about the fact that him learning to read may have been slightly overwhelming for him. And so we get to hear this conversation about it, and it's important. And I do believe that that straightness in his back now is coming from this. He can't unknow it. He can't undo it now. The die has been cast. And though he feels like it's a weight at the same time, he is very, very proud of this. Very, very proud of his ability. Okay. Moving forward, we hear this absolutely wonderful score as a carriage rides towards a museum. It arrives, a woman gets out. She is clearly a woman that is mixed, but we're not sure with what yet. She walks in the museum. She's looking at different pieces of art, and as she's in there, Caucasians are looking at her like, what are you doing in here? What do you know about art? Like, who taught you how to, you know, walk upright, basically. And So we see that she has had her eye on this fellow who is continually walking towards her in the suit, but we don't know who it is. When the fellow arrives and they begin to talk, we see his face and we realize it's Cato. Now, we're told that this is 4 months earlier. So this is before Noah escapes. This is what's happened to him after they have split. The Macon Seven split up. And he came across this money. He came into this large sum of money, mind you. So he's obviously balling out. He asked the woman about the piece, how she felt about the piece, and she gives him this long diatribe. And she makes a reference to the person that has donated the piece, and his name is C. Powell. And then a Caucasian man walks up to Cato and says, "Mr. Powell, your carriage is ready." And she realizes that Cato is actually C. Powell. And there's this little smile, and he goes on, she goes on. Okay, so then we see Georgia, and she is leading the sister circle, the sewing circle, and they are talking about a rally coming up. They are painting banners, and Elizabeth was supposed to put the lineup together of the speakers, and Elizabeth is very distracted. She's very out of it. So when the ladies go outside to hang the banners to dry, Georgia talks to Elizabeth and she asks her, "Are you okay? Is this too much? Are we moving too fast? You let me know." And basically, Elizabeth says, "Hey, I'm cool. I'm all right." Well, then of course they want to talk about, John Brown, the Lawrence boys, and all of this. And they're sort of um, being a part of the same movement. Like they want the same outcome, which is the freedom of all slaves everywhere, but also they're talking about their different methodologies. And this is where the nuk ot comes in, because nuk ot basically means same agenda, um, but different methodologies for achieving that outcome, that agenda, that end game. Okay, so as they're talking about this, they hear this tap tap tap, and Georgia knows that it's coming from the tunnel. They go down to the tunnel and they find Rosalie. Y'all, Rosalie made it back to safety. Aren't we grateful? All right, so then we go back to Noah, and Noah is in the home that Cato has, and he is looking good. He's beautifully healthy. He's it's just in all the right places. And he finds a switchblade and shaves his beard off, and he um makes his way downstairs. The first thing he says when he sees Cato is, "What are we doing here? What's happening? Why am I here?" And Cato says, "Well, you're welcome. You're welcome for the clothes. You're welcome for the suits. You're welcome for the nice bed. You're welcome for the food. You're just welcome." And Noah's just like, "Are we? I don't." Now, when he sees Cato, Cato is sparring with the white man. And the white man's hitting him. He's hitting him back. Noah's confused because this would never be done down in Georgia. Okay, there's a white man that's helping Cato get dressed. Again, he's confused. Noah's confused. Okay, so then we go back to Cato dancing with Debbie, and they are um, getting it on, and she accidentally bumps into a white man or vice versa, and the man makes a racial slur. And this causes, even though it's against Debbie's wishes, Cato to smash this man upside the head with a bottle, in which case they got to get out of there. Too sweet. And she's telling him, "Why would you do that?" "I didn't like the way he was talking to you." But they're just words. They're just words. I have been called that and worse, both out loud and without words at all. I'm used to it. Being British and Indian, Middle Eastern Indian descent. And she says, what I want to know, you surround yourself with white people. It's always about the money with you. We never really get to know you. I want to know more about you. And he says, you don't want to know where I've been. You don't know what want to know what I've been through. I'm a monster. They kiss. All right. Then we see Rosalie. She's getting 2 drops of Dilaudid every few hours because they want to keep her in a semi-comatose state so that she can heal and she can get better. And of course, Elizabeth wants to know if the baby will be damaged or hurt, and he says shouldn't be. Okay, Elizabeth is mad. Who would hit a woman, a pregnant woman? Who would beat a pregnant woman like this? This is ridiculous. They're evil. They're nothing but monsters. And she's escalating in anger. And Georgia sort of kind of shuts it down by saying, she's a fighter. Rosalie's a fighter. She's going to be fine. She will pull through this. And it sort of redirects Elizabeth a little bit, okay? Um, So then we see Cato and Noah at the lunch table, and they're with, a whole restaurant full of Caucasians, and Cato is ordering the food in French. And Noah is just like, what is going on? Like, have I been dropped into the vortex? I'm sitting inside with a suit on at the table in front of all these Caucasians, and there's a white waiter. Like, I'm thrown off. Like, I don't get it. I'm so confused. And so, Cato knows this, and he says, hey, um, so what's your plan, man? What are you gonna do? And Noah's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And, he tells him, hey, what's your plan? Not that I would know the plan since you left me behind. And, and he says, what's your plan? What are you going to do? Are you going to use that knife that's under the table? Even if you can make it past my 2 Irish gentlemen, you can't make it past these other 2 guys. Even if you did make it past them, you can't make it past the police outside. They're all mine. They all belong to me. Okay, he is intimating ownership over these people. He said it's amazing what money can do. All right. So at this moment, Noah is looking at him. He's still puzzled and bewildered. But when Cato goes on and on, Noah drops his eyes up a little bit like, there's the Cato that I know. There's the a-hole that I knew. Okay. All right. The snake in the grass that I knew. And so there's this moment. Then we see him sort of lose it on Cato and take the knife that he is indeed holding and put it in the middle of the table. You want to let him know, yeah, I got a knife and I ain't afraid to use it. All right. So then we see Debbie and Cato, and they are, again, a few months earlier, they are in Ireland watching a boxing match. And she talks about her brother being in the boxing and how that got her into boxing. And she thought it was this, but it's really that, and eloquent and beautiful and all of this other stuff. No, it's not. The guy in the ring says 100 quid to anyone who can beat me. And she raises Cato's hand for him, and he gets in the ring. He's still a little dazed and confused and begins to fight, which he immediately goes into a losing tailspin. When they take a small break, Cato goes over to Debbie and she basically gasses him up. You can do this. Take all that anger and that rage that you've been holding against the people that hurt you and treated you bad and did all this, that, and the third, and put it into these two right here and go hard on this guy. So he turns around and he does just that. He starts wailing on the guy and beating the guy's butt and kicking his butt real, real good. So then we see Georgia, and she is talking with the gentleman, the Lawrence boys, who run with John Brown. And um, they're having a lively discussion about their different methodologies for, being in this movement and fighting this fight. And it's a very healthy debate. It's going back and forth, and we see a moment where Georgia herself begins to speak French, and the Lawrence boy doesn't know what she means. And another woman there at the table, a woman who looks like she's full on black, and not mulatto, she interprets what it is that Georgia has said. Now, what are we seeing here? We're seeing women who are smart, who are cunning, who are wise, who are well educated and well equipped to fight this fight their way. They don't have brawn, but what they do have is brains. Okay, so this is the juxtaposition. Then we see Elizabeth chime in, and she says, it's a terrible way to treat people, to terrorize women and children. And so the Lawrence boy says, what do you mean? What white women and children? Because black women and children been terrified all their lives. They're used to it. And I was like, Amen. You best to say that, sir. You best to say it. So then we see Noah and Cato again, and Noah and Cato is saying, "What next?" And so Noah says, look, dude. I didn't just leave you behind just arbitrarily. I left you a weapon so that you could fight for yourself, okay? So that you could go your way and forge your own way. And, you know, Cato's not really hearing that. Noah says, all of this fluff, the white people, the fancy this, the fancy that. I really see you. You still a low down snake in the grass, two-faced, double dipping butthole you've always been. All right. And um, Cato begins to reflect, and he says, "This is what Noah says. I see you for to being a snake, and everybody in here see it too." It's at that moment that Cato begins to reflect about a really intimate moment he had with Debbie, where he gave her a ring and asked her to marry him. They made sweet, sweet monkey love and got engaged. And um, you know, yeah. So then we see um Noah again, and Noah is saying, what are you doing here? Why haven't you left and gone after your wife and child and gotten your wife and child back? Because, see, this is Noah's thinking. I get my family. I need my family. We all need to be together. What are you doing here without your wife and family? And I ain't seen them up in that big old house you got in. And Cato loses it. He comes undone. Noah struck a nerve with him, okay? And he says, Noah, 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 it's all about you. You're the selfish one. You're going to always make a decision that suits you. And so then we see uh, Elizabeth and the Lawrence boy go into um, a voter's booth, and he begins to take a bat or a stick or whatever and crash all the booths. And so Elizabeth says, "Hey, what would you have done if people were in here?" And he says, "I would have done the same thing." And she says, "What got you into this? What made you this way?" Which is so funny because when she came into that voters booth registration office, she seemed very excited to be there. She seemed very excited to be a part of the fun, right? The violence. Okay. So then we see him begin to tell her a story, this long story about slave and what he saw and the slave son. And then when he talked to the slave son, what did the slave son say? And he didn't say anything. The reason why he didn't say anything is because the story's not true. The story's not true because you don't need a story in order to do what's right, to do what's moral, to do what's ethical. Man up and saddle up and let's fight this fight, right? He tells her, you don't need a story. Slavery is wrong, and that is it, point blank, period. Okay? I was like, shout out to you, sir. Then we see Noah and Cato, and They are back at the house, and Cato has got several slaves, 6 or 8 slaves lined up out there, and he's got a slavier, um, basically somebody who buys and sells slaves. And uh, Cato puts this proposition to him. Now, you can either get in the uh, on the carriage and go back with this guy, give yourself to the slavery, and I will let all of these people go. I will buy all of their freedom. He says, or you can just choose to stick to your guns. And Noah feels bad. He's upset. He would love to give these people their freedom, but he says, no, I can't make that decision. Now, there's a part of him, I think, that knows that that Rosalie needs him, and he can't sacrifice it. Plus, he talks about a little bit later on about how much he fought. So basically, Noah is caught between a rock and a hard place, but he says, no, I can't do that. And the slaves are like, yeah. And so this is a moment where we see why we dislike Cato in the first place. He represents the divisiveness that we see as in our own communities right now. He represents this separation, this idea that you're this one-dimensional thing and that's it and that's all. And anything outside of that can't happen because people just do not come together. Can't come together. Meanwhile, what you're saying seems like a cause, but it really is just a label that you're putting on everyone because you yourself are weak. Okay, so um, you know, we go back to Ireland, and Cato has, so he thought he's won. He's knocked this man down, and while he's celebrating, yay, 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 the man gets up and wonk, knocks him out basically, and not out, but he's stunned and he's dazed and he's confused and he's looking up, and as he's looking up he sees Debbie, who is surrounded by white men, and they are all saying the same thing: get up, you better get up. And the look in her eye was a little bit of disappointment. So I don't know why he felt the way he did. It was something at that moment changed between them. And I don't know if he looked at her that way because she was surrounded by white men and they were all yelling the same thing, or if he was looking at her that way because he could see that she was kind of obsessed a little bit with um, this sort of dogmatic way. Get up. You better get up now. Get up. Get up, Cato. Get up. I think she saw a bit of weakness in him when he didn't get up, when he didn't win. And I think he recognized that in her eyes for whatever reason. I just think that that's it. You guys let me know what you think down below, okay? And I don't know. I don't know if it was his shame in front of Debbie. I'm not sure. But so we're here. We're at the rally, you guys. And at this rally, we get a chance to hopefully see Georgia speak. She has decided to speak after being encouraged by Elizabeth to speak. There are tons of people there. Some of the people are from the Lawrence Boys, John Brown situation. Some of the people are just standing there, new people, and some of the people are a part of the sewing circle. And we see that Georgia can't bring herself to speak. She gets nervous and runs off, and Elizabeth gets up there and reads her speech verbatim. And there is this point within the sermon that Elizabeth switches, she changes, and she moves from this really calm drone speak to this really powerful, really sort of preachy, really passionate type of speaking. And people were like booing, some people are clapping, and some people are trying to clap while other people are booing, and it becomes this sort of thing. At the same time that she's doing this talking and she is giving her speech, we go back and we see Cato and Debbie. And Cato and uh, Debbie wakes up and there's a note there. They're in Ireland. There's a note there from Cato. And that note basically is the deed to the flat there. And she runs after him. She is headed off down to the docks to ask him why he's leaving. So, um, she is running after him. She is crying. She is so upset. Why would you just leave? Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving me? Why are you leaving me with just the deed to your flat? I want more than that. And she starts whacking him and hitting him and smacking him. This is all you want. You want to just be mistreated. You want to be mishandled. And this is what you want. And she says, I thought you wanted better. And he looks at her and he says, I do. Now, this is a moment. What does he mean? What is he saying? Did he see something in her during that whole period where she was sort of egging him on and being demonstrative? Did he see her as nothing more than a slave master? Another individual that was trying to control him and train him. I don't know. It broke her heart. He gets on the ship, comes on back home to the States. So we get a chance to see Elizabeth get up, do her speech, and she is nervous. She is very slow to speak, very deliberate. She is reading verbatim, and there is a moment where she gets really, really impassioned. And it is at this same moment that we see Noah sort of snap at Cato, and they are fighting. They are swinging and hitting hard and going hard, like the full brunt of each other's anger and frustration. They are taking it out on each other physically. And it comes to this moment in Elizabeth's speech, which crescendos, and Noah and Cato's fight, which is crescendoing, where um, Elizabeth, a member of the audience, takes a bottle or a rock or something and throws it up on stage and hits Elizabeth in the head and knocks her out. And at that same moment, we see um, Noah's got Cato by the neck, and he's got that same blade that he shaved his face with at Cato's neck. And Cato is saying, "Do it. You can't do it. You don't have what it takes." Now we see, you know, and um, we see that Noah just says outright, um, that he regretted the losses. He's just trying to he ends up saying, "Look, there's enough of us being killed. I am not going to be responsible for killing my own." And there again, there is this moment that we can assimilate this type of thinking also with what we are going through today as a community with black on black crime. It's enough people out there killing us. We don't need to be killing each other. Okay, so I love these sort of references that jump back and forth in and out of time. All right, and applicable in past as well as future settings. Okay, at the same time, let's go back to Elizabeth. Elizabeth is stunned and dazed. She gets up and she picks up the rock or the bottle, whatever was thrown at her, and just as she's about to lunge it into the crowd of fighting men, Georgia stops her and says, "Hey, listen, come on, we got to get out of here. Let's go." Again, there's this moment where Elizabeth is appeasing that dark side of the fighter in her. You know, it's not so encircled, it's not strategic and peaceful, but there's a side of her that wants to rip the throats and the hearts out of this whole mentality that says you can own another human being. And she's willing, she's open to the idea that you might have to bust some heads open at this point. So I'm waiting to see that grow a little bit more in her character. Then we see Cato knock at the door of the slaves that he originally gave the ultimatum to with Noah, and those slaves um, have have basically been given their freedom papers, and they are on a boat on their way to Canada. Well, Cato is back home, and he's got his right hand man, which is a Caucasian man, and he's talking about the fight between he and Noah. You should have kept your hands up. Block your face. Protect your face. He says you can't protect if you're fighting. This is what Cato says. Basically, he's licking his wounds, and he's disappointed because he was really really hoping to knock Noah down a peg or two, and for Noah not to continue to be this honorable person, but to show himself to be just like Cato, which is a sellout, a person who will do anything. Now, Noah is back in his room while Cato is talking to his right hand man. And Noah is telling this guy there who's saying, "Hey, I heard about your story. I heard about the Macon Seven. It is an absolutely positively incredible story, and you should be proud." And Noah says, I lied, I stole, I killed, I did a lot of stuff for my freedom, and it scares me how much I did for this thing called freedom. Got a lot of people killed, and I do anything to take it back. This is what he's telling Cato too when they fought. I do anything to take it back. The difference is, um, and this gentleman says that you gave those people something they never had, which is a choice. And the difference is you didn't kill them, okay? During the struggle, during the journey, they were killed, all right? They knew the risk too, but at the same time, it was something they wanted to do. So, there's this moment where Noah is sort of coming to grips with, this sort of violent strategy that he took and the toll it has taken on him and his own personal psyche. It scares him. At the same time, there's the juxtaposition of Cato, who is standing on the balcony, and he is saying, uh, you know, it, this is why I had to come back. Somebody's got to set the forest on fire. Somebody has to be the biblical flood, and that needs to be me. He wants to take this anger, okay, and try to just light a fire across this land in order to make some changes in terms of slavery. Now, here is the nukot, okay? Noah, although he wouldn't change any of it if he could, he still feels bad about it, all right? But Cato is rooted and grounded. He had all these judgments and all these predisposed ideas about who Noah really, really was, forgetting about the fact that he killed a man, one of his own people, to be free, okay, to escape. So he's forgotten about all of this, all right? So that was it for this episode, you guys. What did you guys think of this episode? I am so sorry that I am so exhausted and tired. This has been a very, very long night. Currently, it is just about 3 a.m. in the morning. Um, and I'm so glad you guys stuck with me. I hope you enjoyed my review. And I would love to hear your commentary. What do you guys think about Cato being back? Cato's the guy we love to hate. I mean, he is a man who also has his own baggage. What happened to his wife and kid? What's going on with that? He's a wounded bird too. Although he's a bit of a butthole and a jerk, he's still a wounded soul as well. So, you guys let me know what you think about Elizabeth. Do you guys think Elizabeth is going over to the dark side of the fight? What do you guys think about what Noah is saying about how how much he is willing to fight for his freedom? What do you guys think about Daniel in the beginning? What he was saying about knowing, having this knowledge now. I would love to hear your comments. Please leave them down below. Please also remember to subscribe and give me a thumbs up for this video. And until next Wednesday, you guys, I holla.